Hi everyone and welcome back. My name is Audrey Shantz and I'm a watercolor artist and a watercolor teacher, and hopefully you just saw me a moment ago when we were sketching our Lantana flower. This is what the flower looks like painted, but if you were just with me a moment ago, you hopefully have it as a sketch. If not, go ahead and go back to the video where we sketch it. It should be like the last video, and because we already did that, we don't need as many supplies. And so let's go ahead and get our candle out. If you don't have a candle, maybe you're doing some essential oils. Maybe you just have candy. Maybe you've got something to drink. But I am lighting my candle here and setting up just kind of a lovely space. I have my heated blanket because it's hot out today, but it's not hot in my downstairs. So look. Cozy. Here is my handle. We're ready to go with that. I will turn the camera around and we will go through some supplies and then we'll get started painting. So for supplies today, we're going to need some kind of watercolor paints. I love this set and I have that one linked below. I have a size 10 round Winsor & Newton watercolor brush. I have just a regular pencil. Even though we've already done the sketch, we'll use this to sort of reinforce where we want to see that. I have a towel, and then I have some water in a jar over here. I've got a little spray bottle to spray my paints with, and then if you have some kind of a heat tool or an old hair dryer, that will be great. And then, you know how I keep telling you to get candy? New favorite, if you haven't tried these, see how it says sparkling? This is like seltzer. It's like tingly. Listen, just try it and trust me, okay? And I think that's all we need. Plus we need like our actual sketch, which we have in this book right here. So yours should look something like this somehow, some way. And I do want to take a second and we'll just observe the actual painted ones so we can see where we're going. So the first one that I have is this one here. We looked at it when we did the sketch, so we won't take too much time on it, but really worth noticing that we have this lovely pink color. It's not exactly a pure pink. It's a bit of a pink with maybe a dark orange mixed in. So we'll work on mixing our color together. And then within that, we've got a little bit of yellow that we can see was done maybe wet on wet, because we can see some color bleeds in there. And then after that, we'll dry it and we'll work on top of that with yellow and then a darker color as well. And then we can see our stem is a nice fresh green. I'm not sure how I said stem. And I like the simplicity of this one. I would like it if we can get into it. Like, see how some of these colors are slightly darker on this right side. I like the idea of us getting these being a little bit like lighter and brighter, and these ones having a bit of a shadow, which is just a fun way to play with where is our light source. So that's one. And then I'm going to show you another one that I did that's really similar. Is this one. The colors are slightly different. I think that's great. Probably every time you painted it, you would do different, similar but different colors. But I really like how this one looks. So we'll go ahead and start mixing up our paints. Once again, if you don't have your sketch done, you can get that on our last video. So here's the colors we're going for. I'm going to pull my palette over, and last time I just sort of left a bunch of stuff. This time I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to dip it into my water and squeeze it off on the side. This is my favorite way of doing it. And then you can just actually clear off your whole palette. And the reason I'm just showing this is because I can remember when I first started painting, I didn't know anything and I wanted to know everything. So I can just take that wet paper towel, clean off this whole side, and then dry it. So hopefully you've got some paper towel left. Get the whole thing dry. We don't want it to be wet or else our puddles will touch. And now I can start fresh making any colors that I want. I could have just used what we had, and that would have been fine too. I'm going to take my spray bottle and spray my whole thing of paints here. If you're curious about this set of paints, I do have a review. If you go to my videos and like scroll, or maybe I even have a playlist called reviews, but I've used this one a ton. And I'll just show you. It also comes with a little swatch chart, and you can swatch the whole thing, so then you can look at this as a way to like choose which colors you're going to use. You never need it because you can always take this and test it, or get an extra piece of paper again, like we did last week. Let me grab one. And you can test your papers out on that, or your colors out on that too. Mine's like a little bit still wet. I'm just gonna take my towel and clean it off. All right, let's grab our paintbrush and we'll start to think about colors. So remember we said it's pink with a little bit of orange in it. Now you get to choose what this is going to be, and if you'd like to look up a lantana flower or any flower that you'd like to try to match the color of, feel free to grab that. Also, if you want to take a screenshot of this right now so you have this, I will leave it on the screen for just a second for you to do so, and we'll move on. So we know we're going to need yellow. Let's start with that. Actually, a lot of times I like to start with yellow because it doesn't get my water too dirty yet. So I got my brush wet in my water jar. Here it is. Got it wet. And I've already sprayed my paints. I'm going to grab, now you can do either color you want. Let's do the lighter one actually. Let's try that. And I just took it and swiped it onto my palette. Maybe get a little bit more. Let's go into your water, just the tip of my brush and back. And now I've got a puddle of yellow. So these are going to be our puddles on this side, paints on this side. And so that's good for our yellow for now. I'm going to clean my brush out into my jar. And then I want to get some kind of like a mix of a pink and a dark orange. So if you don't have pink, you might be taking from red. Red plus water gets us a pink. Okay, because in watercolor, the way we get our colors lighter is by adding water. So I'll do a red for a second, and I'll start it here, and I want to look at it and see what I think. I'm trying to leave this here so you can compare it. Because watercolors are transparent and this is against white, you really can see what it's going to look like. I like to move my brush around though, and then you can see what it'll look like a little more like dispersed. So I've got that color. And I'm going to grab a little bit of orange, just a tiny bit. I did not add any water to my brush. I just went over here and grabbed some, okay? I don't need more water. I just want to change the color. And I like it. Ooh, that was a big change, but I think I like that too. Now I want to make it lighter, so I'm going to take my brush and clean it. And I just got all the pigment out of my brush and I came back, right? So then it'll be a little bit lighter. Look at that color and see if you like it. And if you don't, I want you to look at your palette and just go, what does it need more of? If it needs to be lighter, it needs more water. If it needs to be darker, it needs more paint in your puddle. And then from there, it's like, I don't know, do you want it oranger? Try some orange. And I just did that, the tiniest bit of one of these light oranges, and now I like it better. So when we talked about in our intro video that one thing it's gonna make you like this series is if you can really take time to work on your colors, because that makes a big difference as far as things looking realistic, or it just gives a different look to them. So I feel like this is pretty good. I just added a tiny bit more water. And then let's go ahead. We're going to do like this darker color. Do you see how underneath of the yellow, we added some like shadowing or whatever? That's going to really help with it looking realistic. And I think that's a bit of like a burnt sienna color. So that is one of these reddish browns. And I'm going to take, I have barely any water on my brush, just the tip of my brush in here. And I'm just grabbing some of that. Look at how I'm almost like scrubbing it. I just want a little puddle. See that? And it still can move around, so it's puddly, but it's not a ton of water. Okay, so here is this. I think that's pretty good of a color. And if I don't like it, I'll adjust it as we go. But for now, it gives us a start, and it shows us that this one we are not going to need as much water in. So that's pretty good. Let's clean our brush out. And let's go ahead and make the green now too, and then we'll get started. So it's just a nice fresh green. I would say don't overthink it, but if your green looks neon, we don't probably want that. And if it looks like maybe straight Crayola green, you might want to tone that down as well to make it look a little bit more like found in nature. So If I just take here, I'll just take this one, which is on the bottom for me. And I'm going to show you, this one's going to be a little bit too, you know, bright, Crayola, neon. And look how I'm scrubbing it real good because I don't want a lot of water, but I do want a lot of color, okay? Now, if I wanted to just subdue that just a little, that's where we look at the color wheel. Red and green are opposite. I have a whole video about this on our 30-day watercolor series. You can find that in my videos. But if I were to take my green and add just one swipe, one little swipe of red, let's see what happens. I'm going to go in here, one swipe, come at it, and it is going to, do you notice how much earthier? I mean, you can rewind that and watch if you want, but man, did that really change it. It's almost too like brown now, so I can just add a little bit more green back in. And then now that's a really nice, just earthy, natural looking green. So I'm going to use that as my puddle. I am cleaning out my brush, and now we're going to move things out of the way. This is how you set yourself up for success. It's getting a good sketch and getting your colors mixed ahead of time. You're going to like it. I did not do this, but I can just do a swatch really quick for you to see what we're dealing with. So that was our light pink. This was our yellow. I'm trying not to like waste too much of the paint that I just created now. Do you know what I mean? But, and get this so you can see it. This was our green. And then I have this burnt sienna sort of color right here. And then now I can really see, okay, that's like a pretty good, this almost needs a little bit of pink, and maybe I'll add that now that I see it. Here, watch, I'll change it real quick. And I like that a little bit better. I can hold that next to this and go like, hey, that's pretty good. Okay, or you can take a minute and adjust what you've got. So you might like this color swatch. When I was doing classes in person a lot, everybody wanted extra paper to do a color swatch, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't let them because I was like, go for it, just try it. And we tested them here, which is what I almost exclusively do. I really don't use the swatch of paper, but you can, and you might like it. Okay, within this, we're doing a lot of things on repeat. I think that makes sense to you. So we are going to start by picking a few different flowers, and let's go away from each other, like 1, 2, 3. Skip the one that connects them, because when we work in watercolors, if you touch wet paint to wet paint, your colors will bleed, and we kind of want them to stay put a little bit, okay? So we'll take that pink paint, and while it is wet, we're gonna load in yellow. So let's see if I can get close enough for you here. Okay, so my brush is cleaned. I have dried it like this on my towel. I'm going into that puddle I created, and I'm gonna do 3 of these that don't touch. Watch that, I just went right through the center, but I will work quickly while this paint is wet. So I did 1, 2, and then 3. Make sure you don't run out of paint. Make sure you like the color. While they are wet, okay, first I will make sure there's no big puddling or pooling. So I took my brush, touched it to my towel, and came back. I'm lifting up any excess paint. Okay, touched my brush to my towel again. I'll go into the yellow and touch that center. Let's see, you can't see well enough. We're coming in, and I will redo it again so you can see much better than that. Okay, I'm with you here. Okay, so that yellow will touch it right to the center while the pink is wet. I'm going to do it again. I'll make sure you can see it really well. Okay, I'm cleaning my brush. We have so many flowers to work with, which is great because now we can just keep doing it. Try not to work next to something that's wet. Now I notice my pink is a little light, so I'm just taking these really small movements of adding the littlest bit of paint into my puddle, and I'm going to come back. What you need to know right now is that these flowers have to be wet, or else I wouldn't do it this way. I wouldn't teach it this way. So, okay, I'm filling in this one. Notice my paint is darker. It's cute. And I'll do this one over here. Maybe since my paint's darker, I'll focus on the ones on the right. And while those are wet, I clean my brush, dry it on my towel, go right into my lemon yellow and touch that to the center. It has to be wet for it to have this lovely blend. If it dried, it wouldn't work. It has to actually push that pink out of the way so that the paper can absorb the yellow. And so it's got some work to do, you know. Now I like that these are lighter and these are darker, so I'm going to try to focus the darker ones on the right side just a little bit, just to kind of give that effect of light and shadow. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to try to find ones that aren't touching anything. And so I just lightened up my paint a bit so I could paint some that are over here. And let's just do 2 at a time. You guys, my cat is climbing on the table that holds my camera and moving it, and that is really not helping me right now. Okay, I like so it can touch something that's wet, but like just give it a second, you know? So that's why I am, because the colors can bleed a little because the flowers are the same color, but I don't really want like the yellow. See how in this one the yellow's coming up in there? The longer you wait, or if you dry them in between, you won't have as much of that. So my yellow is going a little further than I want it to go, which means I need a little bit less water. Okay, so I continue to refresh this puddle up here. I'm gonna show that to you. So right now, I'm almost out anyways. So I'm dipping my brush into the water and grabbing more water. And then I'll just get tiniest bit, and come back. Add water. So these really small movements, and because it's a light color, it's mostly water. And when your color gets too dark, clean your brush out in your jar. See, I keep getting it too dark. But take this time. And if these are all a little bit different in color, it's actually great. So we're gonna roll with it. All those little slight color variations are just beautiful. So I'm gonna do this one up here. I'm painting the whole thing. And I'm doing it somewhat quick because I do want, I want to be able to do a couple at a time. So what I just did here is I cleaned my brush, I tapped it on my towel, came back and touched it to get rid of excess. And then now I'm gonna just touch that yellow in there. So you're cleaning your brush out between colors. These ones are drying, so I just took that brush that had yellow on it and I actually just tapped it onto here. You know, you can do that as you go or do it later. But like, you can play, you're the boss of this. I love how these are having a couple colors in them. That's actually some of my favorite flowers. I got some for my daughter's graduation open house that are these multicolored like this, and they're amazing. So I did those ones. Now I'm going to try to find a space that's dry again, or that's not touching something wet. So I'm going to come up here now. And I'm not making a big deal of it. It's like it's going to work out. Just trust the process. But here's what I will tell you. If you're doing this and your colors are not blending at all, you need more water, but a little bit more water. Try a little bit more water, okay? If you're losing control and you're frustrated right now, you have too much water. That's just a rule. You can trust it. Look how many we have done already. Now we're not done because this is a process of layering. We have more flowers. We're gonna add details and stems, but like, you're really doing great already. I'm gonna update my puddle just a little bit again. Ooh, it got dark. So I cleaned out my brush and came back. That feels pretty good. It feels a little darker, so I'm gonna focus on these ones on the right. Especially the ones that might be tucked behind. This darkness is going to give the impression of shadow. So this is pretty good. I'm touching my brush to my towel and coming back and just lifting up any puddling or pooling. Cleaning out my brush, going into that lemon yellow and adding that right into those centers while it's wet. If the yellow is going too far, you have too much water either initially or when you're grabbing your yellow. Make sense? I kind of want to make some of these just pure yellow. I think that would be beautiful, but that is not what we're doing today, so I'm not going to do it. But if I was just painting this for me, I would try it. Okay, let's get some of these. Now, I know my puddle is changing as I go because I keep remixing. Well, maybe I needed more in the beginning, but like I'm not really worried about it because I really like what happens when we keep changing these colors. So I'm gonna get 2 of these again, touch my brush to my towel and come back, lift up that puddling or pooling. Okay, and then you're working kind of quick. You clean your brush, dry it a little bit because we don't want much water, and then get into that yellow. So when you're adding that yellow, very little water. Trying to tell you anything I think of so I can try to anticipate any trouble you might be having. but we're just working around trying to get them not to all blend together. We want to do wet on wet, but we don't really want to be back and forth to the dryer too much, you know? Okay, I've got this one here. Do the whole thing, but it has to still be wet to get that yellow center. So clean my brush, dry it, back with the yellow. And you have to remember which flower you just did. Okay. We have 3 left, so just think about what color you want them to be. I want this one to be a little bit lighter because it's kind of, seems like it would be up in the front more, and these two could be tucked back. So nice and light for this one. I'll just do 1 for a second. Okay, touch my brush to my towel, come back and lift up. If you know you're gonna come back and lift, what I like is you don't really have to care about how much water you put in there. You just, you know, you don't have to plan as well, I guess, because you know that you're not done. You can come back and do some more. That one's really light, but I like it. I'll darken up my puddle just a hair for these ones. And I do like that maybe this is a bit pinker. Some of them are a bit oranger, you know. I think you'll love that variation. So now I've got 1, 2, and then clean my brush, dry it, and get into that lemon yellow real quick, because when your color's darker, it's gonna stain your paper a little faster. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, we're gonna take a second and dry this and go on from there. Okay, I just dried my paper, so I wanna show you what happened. Is it started to come up like away from my notebook. You could have a binder clip. Usually I have them right next to me. It's not this, but you know, like a binder clip, you know, where you would just clip it down. This is a hair clip. But because I don't, I'm just going to take my paper and just gently roll it backwards. And it should flatten out enough. And then you can use that binder clip if you want to. Okay, I just grabbed some binder clips. So they'd be like this. You can get them in a big pack. They also can be a nice way to hang up your artwork. But just put it right over like that, and then it'll hold things flat for you. You can do it on the top and the bottom or whatever. But I like it when I'm using a notebook like this. Okay, I dried all of this, so we know that nothing's gonna bleed now. And so let's next get into our green, and we're just gonna fill in our stems. So the thing about our green is that now we do wanna really limit how much paint we have. I'm gonna take my brush and dip just the tip of it into my water, come back into my green, mix it around. I wanna make sure this puddle is refreshed and it's doing what I want it to do. Okay, that feels good. I'm gonna show it to you. It's puddly. You see, I can move it around, but there's not very much water. There's enough to move it. I'm gonna set that down. I'm gonna go light on the tip of my brush. And we are just going to fill these in. I say light on the tip of your brush because when you're using a brush, it's pressure that makes the brush tip bigger. And it's, you know that, but you maybe don't put words to that. So I'm putting words to that for you. And also, if you hold your brush more vertical, that's helpful versus holding it on its side. Tip it up. You can put your pinky down for like a little support pinky. But try to look at your sketch. Make sure you find all the spots that you turned into stems. And just lightly go down like this. And fill that in. If you wanted to darken up your stem right here, I like to think, where would the stem be shadowed? You can quick grab a little bit more of your paint. So I am only adding the tiniest bit of water, the tip of my brush only, and I grabbed a little bit more paint and I just darkened it up. And then like right here, it might be darker. Maybe on back here, it's gonna be darker, right? Because it's shadowed. So if you can do that while it's wet, it'll blend nicely. If you got to it after it had dried, which is likely because we're not using much water, I just cleaned my brush, dried it on my towel, and I can take the tip of my brush which will just be damp, and just kind of soften those edges. There you go. I think it looks awesome. I love that we just did that. It's one more step towards reality and realistic looking flowers. Okay, from here we're going to take our yellow. I did lemon yellow to begin because I thought it'd be fun if we grab this darker yellow for the centers. So I just dipped the tip of my brush only into my water, and I'm kind of scrubbing my paint, right? And I want this little puddle of dark yellow. Yeah, see that? It's a puddle. It can move, but there's not very much water. And I'm just gonna go in here and I'm just gonna pop, 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 all those little centers. Please make that sound while you do it. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm just going in and I'm just sticking it on there and just touching my brush to it. Now, these will be kind of like little puddles, so they actually might take longer than you think to dry, and we'll dry them in just a moment. But you're just kind of like redefining those centers and making them just stand out a little bit more. Isn't it fun to see the process? It's just like one step on top of the next, and it all adds up, and then you're like, whoa, I did that. Which is so fun. Okay, I think I got them all. That feels good to me. And then I'm gonna stop for 1 second, grab out my little heat tool and give them a good dry. Now I can tell they're dry because when I turn my paper, I don't see the light reflecting on them, and I want to be sure on that one. We are going to now get into that burnt sienna, and do you remember when we looked at our reference how underneath of those centers they have a bit of a little shadow or a darker color? So it's just showing that somewhere on that flower we have more than just pink and more than just yellow, and I think it gives some really good depth. So we're going to get into our burnt sienna. If you already made it, great. Take the tip only of your brush and refresh that puddle. But since it's been sitting there for a minute, I always like to double check it. So I'm gonna scrub that paint a little bit, get into here. So I have a puddle that's decently dark, but small, not very much water. Because if we have too much water, we'll lose control and we won't be able to get this detail work that we wanna see. If you don't love this color, mix it with something else. I'm gonna get a little bit of a darker brown in there. And I really like how that just right away just gave it some depth. So from that, we're coming in and we are just gonna, let me show it to you on this. We're just gonna scoop underneath of our circles. Okay, it's just, or to the right, under and to the right, assuming that our light source would be like over here. So it's just gonna give a little bit of a shadow. Don't overthink it, but don't press hard. Press really lightly. And underneath of these, you just wanna put some color, however you can do it. The more circular, great, but maybe it's just a little dab of color is all you can kind of fit in there. Doesn't matter. And you could have done this when it's slightly wet if you wanted to. All of that is just like personal choice. And I'm just getting those little markings under. Try not to cover your yellow. That's kind of the most important. I mean, it doesn't really matter how this goes on as long as the effect is there of it being under. And somewhat circular, but like that isn't circular. For some reason, I'm having a harder time with it, I think because those centers are tiny. You could also grab out a tiny brush right now. No one is the boss of you. You can do anything you want. But see, it's coming together. I love it. Now, if some of these are weird shapes, you can clean your brush, dry your brush, and come back with that damp brush. And you can touch them to each other. You can just like, it'll soften them no matter like kind of what you're doing with the water. It just makes them disperse. We're almost there, everybody. Can you believe it? I'm obsessed. I love it. It's one thing I might do is take my tip of my brush and grab that darker green, and just on this one stem, I think I'm going to add a little bit of darkness along the right side. Just gave even more of that realistic or shadowed effect, and maybe to this one too. And then I want to grab my pencil. So we do want the whole thing to be wet. I mean, not wet. No, dry. Hold on. Did you see me warm up my hands because they're cold? Okay, looking at our reference one more time. I just want to be able to distinguish those flowers in the way that I want to now, honestly, without the reference. I want to go, where do I feel like needs separated from the flower next to it? So like right here, this is a little jumble. I'm going to take my pencil and darken up the bottoms of some of these. And I like that. Maybe this one I want to kind of stand out a little bit. And since I love a sketch, I want it to look like a sketch with watercolors, not exactly just a watercolor. Like, I'm not somebody who's like, ooh, hide those pencil lines. So that's why I'm coming in back with them. You could do this with paint, but I like the effect of just coming in and adding a little bit more detail with your pencil. And you can emphasize what you want emphasized. And if anything got weird, you can be like, clear it up a bit. Like, oh, this petal is really on top. Okay, cool. You know, and then we will write what kind of flower it was. This is a Lantana flower, and I think I will put that all the way up here so that I don't cut into my space down here. Lantana flower. And you did it. If you want to share it on our group, it's on Facebook called Audrey's Art Club, and if you want to follow my Facebook page, it's Audrey Shantz Art. If you are doing art and making art, you are an artist. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next week for our next flower.